Hi guys, welcome. I'm joined by my friend Kat.
Hello, how
Hi
you doing?
guys. See, I was just making sure the audio worked because yesterday I did a podcast and my mic wasn't working.
Oh no!
Yeah, so
oh,
I was
no,
like,
oh, no.
this mic better work. So anyway, guys, welcome to the channel Slime and Slashers. And this is our monthly Year of King chat
Yes,
where
it
we
is.
talk about, if you guys have been joining us, you already know, but if you're new, every month of this year, we have been talking about a Stephen King short story, or stories in this case, or a Stephen King book. And then we also talk about the accompanying adaptation or adaptations in this case, because we watched 3 Stephen King movies, which were adapted from the 3 short stories that we read for this month of September.
And the reason we chose the 3 was because September is the month we celebrate Labor Day in the United States. And
you had a genius idea.
We got all of our stories from Night Shift. And the 3 stories have to do with work.
Yeah.
Yes.
So labor. Yeah. So Arlene is joining us from Manchester. Hi, Arlene.
Hey,
so glad to see you again. Cool Gamer. Hello. Daniel Sweet has a great comment here about Graveyard Shift. Daniel says one of his favorite King adaptations. He used to work at a paper mill when part of his job involved venturing into the sub-basement, a lot like Graveyard Shift, by the way. Actually, yeah, a lot like Graveyard Shift. I'm getting mixed up with the Mangler and Graveyard Shift because they're both in like mills. And anyway, Daniel says, huge rats and roaches seem to dare him to make the first move so he can identify with the hero of Graveyard
All
Shift.
I know, Daniel, I am glad that you are alive and well and you can tell this story to us. The fact that you were not only with the rats, but you were also with the roaches. I applaud you for living through that, because cockroaches.
Kat and I even said, like, we can't handle it.
They give me goosebumps just even thinking about it.
Yeah, I don't like them. I'm wearing candy corn earrings. Has nothing to do with any of the stories, but just wanted to show you. Kat is also
fall.
it's leaves. I feel like my camera is really SD right now for some reason, so sorry guys. I think my ring light is too far away and that's part of it. But we are going to push on, because what is better than talking about some cheesy movies? But first we got to talk about the stories.
Yes, let's talk about the stories first. Because in my opinion, the stories were 100,000 times better than the movie adaptations.
It depends on which way you look at it, and we'll get there when we get there.
Now, one thing I have to say, we're going to start with Graveyard Shift. We decided that we're going to go ahead and talk about them in order of publication,
right?
When they were published.
And tell them that where it was published first.
Yes. So all 3 of the stories that we're going to talk about were published in Cavalier magazine. So the first one we're going to talk about is Graveyard Shift. Believe it or not, that did not make it into our Ultimate magazine. The other 2 did, but this one did not. It was originally published in October of 1970, like I said, in Cavalier magazine, and then it ended up in the short story collection Night Shift.
So it didn't make the worst adaptations list in that magazine?
No, it did not, which I was kind of surprised.
I'm surprised too.
I mean, I guess they couldn't put everything on those 2 pages. They only devoted 2 pages to it, But
so Kat is referencing this magazine I gave her. It's a Stephen King magazine, and there's a list of best King adaptations and worst. And I am very surprised Graveyard Shift's not on there, because it's got to be one of the worst.
Yes, it is.
But I think it's so bad it's good, and we'll get there later. But I love it.
So I wanted to share with you out of this fabulous book that Kelsi gifted to me that I refer to all the time in our Year of King, because
it's been so helpful.
It has. I mean, it's really an awesome book. I mean, I would recommend it to anybody that's a King fan.
I found it at Barnes & Noble, guys, but it was the last copy, so I don't know which Barnes & Nobles has this. And it's called American Master. Yeah, Stephen King, American Master. It's a creepy corpus of facts about Stephen King and his work.
Yes, it's by Stephen Spignesi, and he's done a couple of things for Stephen King.
Oh, really?
Yes, he has. But I went ahead and checked out what they had in here for each of the stories, just to kind of give us some background. Like, I'm always intrigued by what inspires, and Stephen King is always inspired by things that happen in his life, as we know from our time with him this year. But Graveyard Shift, King recounts working in a textile mill on the 3 to 11 o'clock shift after high school classes in the spring and summer before college. He was offered the opportunity to work over the 4th of July holiday cleaning out the basement, but took the week off without pay due to exhaustion and slept most of that week. Later, a coworker told him there had been rats the size of cats down there, and thus King's story Graveyard Shift was born. He sold it to Cavalier for $200.
Wow, that's crazy. But I'm sure he made a lot more on Night Shift once, he put it in there. So it was worth it in the end.
Yes, I would think so. So anyway, I think this story, the theme of this story is fighting for survival. That's what I think. And you've got, your rats and what they evolve into, whatever you want to call the monster. I think he was credited as Ralph the Rat or something like that in the credits, but it's the rats against the humans trying to remain successful in their domain or trying to continue to exist.
Yeah, well, I mean, also just trying to continue at this terrible situation at the factory. Like, it's not a good environment. It's not pleasant.
So basically what happens is this drifter, John Hall, starts working there, and he's not there for very long when Warwick, the guy who's in charge, decides after like 12 years they have to clean the basement.
Yeah.
And that just tells you what kind of a bad boss he is, that he hasn't been down in the basement for 12 years. And they all have to go down and work the night shift. It's going to be bad when they bring in these hoses down there. And
yeah,
I don't know. But anyway, it goes from bad to worse. They have to work late at night because it's extremely hot in this mill. And they discover this really terrible creature. Of course, a lot of guys get bit by rats in it, and have to leave. And
I do think rats is kind of an underlying element in a lot of King's stories. Like, I wish before we didn't have time, really. We kind of ran out of time to do some extra research, although Kat still brought the research. She always brings the goods, I gotta tell you.
Well, it was kind of like towards the end, I was like, you know what? It seems like quite a few of his stories.
Yeah.
He talks about rats.
He does, but I wish I would have counted, like, there's got to be a number somewhere on some site that has counted the amount of stories he's mentioned rats in. Because I'm not saying it's a big story point or plot point in every single book or story that he's written, and it's not a big part of each thing it appears in. However, it's in a lot of them, just in general. It could be like a little moment where a rat is doing something crazy. Whereas, another story like 1922, rats play a bigger role, or in Graveyard Shift, rats play a huge role.
Yes.
No pun intended, because the rats do get really big in Graveyard Shift, or some of them. Right. Bat rat, I don't know what you want to call it, like with wings. It's very absurd. I can't wait to talk about the movie, because I'm just thinking about the movie at this point right now.
Yeah.
The story I did find personally lacking a little bit, only because I wished it was longer. Also, why did Hall want to go into that area so bad? It made more sense in the movie why they would even go down there. It's because the boss was like, you got to go down there.
I know. I don't know what his his motivation was.
Me neither. He was like baiting Warwick to go down there.
And even if he wanted to do that to get rid of him and like for them to like escape, having him as a bad boss or whatever, like why did he end up like he met his demise basically? I mean, why would you put yourself into that situation?
That's the weird part, is like he discovers the door and he calls attention to it and he's like, we should go down there. Like, why would he do that?
I don't know.
And it wasn't even Warwick.
That is why I kind of felt like I liked the story. It had great atmosphere. It was creepy. I wouldn't want to be in that situation. I felt like it was more like a prologue to a story, almost like this is what happened 10 years earlier, and then the story was going to begin after that.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I felt about it. I felt like there was a lot of things that were missing. I mean, I enjoyed it, but it was actually a 3-star read for me.
Yeah, I would say about the same. And we're going to rank out of the 3 stories, we're going to rank, favorite short story to least favorite short story. And then we're also going to rank the movie adaptations from, I don't even know what you would say favorite to least favorite, but whatever. Best to worst, or worst to worst? No,
bad, worst, the worst.
I kind of enjoyed the movies a little in different ways, but I'll talk about that later. But Katrina, hi.
But I think too, I mean, if we think about it, I mean, this is my opinion. I really thought it was too short to create a feature film successfully. To me, I think it would have been a better episode in an anthology like, Tales from the Crypt, something like that, because it just didn't seem like it had enough meat to have a full story to it.
It was so short. I think it was like 10 pages.
Yes, it was very, very short. But I was very sad because I wanted to know what was the motivation behind. I mean, I knew he was a drifter, but I almost kind of wondered what was it in his past that would lead him to the point that he was willing to sacrifice himself to get rid of Warwick. Did Warwick remind him of somebody in his past that he had to deal with? It was just stuff like that, and there were just unanswered questions. And I know this is one of his short stories when he first started, but I have more questions. I wanted to know more.
Me too. Definitely me too. We're on the same exact page about that. So, decent story, okay, mid-tier, but entertaining nonetheless. Really, some really good parts. Like, I love the creature itself.
Right.
I wanted more with the creature.
I wanted more with the creature. And also, too, I think one thing that it did have that I liked about the fact was, even though he meets his demise, I was terrified for the guys that had to go down and figure out what happened to them. That to me was like, no.
Because they're going to get it. I mean, come on. It's very sad. And then, like you said, it's like a prologue. Like, what happens? Does the creature escape into the world? Like, into the upper part of the mill? Like, what happens?
Does somehow one of the men get involved with the rat thing and mutate?
Get involved?
One of them, like, or what
if
one lives down there? Like, he kind of survives, but he's bitten by this thing and the blood transfers, and then he's turned into this mutant person thing.
Oh my God.
A mutant rat bat guy that comes out and...
You're in Alaska? Popping in from Alaska. Hey, Rachel.
Yes. You didn't see. She posted, she had mushrooms. She was finding mushrooms all throughout Alaska on Instagram.
Oh, I didn't see it.
And I asked her, did this remind you of What Moves the Dead?
Oh, yeah. Totally a story about mushrooms.
We're digressing.
We are. I like sidebars. I'm a big fan of sidebars, to be honest with you.
So... talking about the movie, there is a little bit of a difference here in the movie and the book of whether or not who survives, okay? Because, in the story, our main character does not survive.
Of course.
Well, we don't know that for 100%, do we?
In the story? I think it's pretty much assumed.
It's assumed, but maybe he becomes the mutant rat bat dude.
There's definitely going to be a dude that morphs into a rat bat.
John Hall becomes the bat rat dude or rat.
All I know is that I have such strong opinions about the movie in that, it was bad though, but it was great though. Like
I knew the minute I started watching it, I said, Kelsi's going to love this movie.
You texted me that.
Many reasons.
You're like, you're going to end up loving this watch. And Paul watched it with me, and even he doesn't like good, bad movies like me.
And he liked it?
Well, he laughed out loud a couple of times. Wow. I mean, he said it was horrible, but he laughed.
Okay, so let's just get some little facts about this. The film was actually released in 1990. The director is Ralph S. Singleton, who was more of a producer than a director. As far as I know, this was the only film he directed. He was an associate producer, though, on Pet Sematary, which was directed by Mary Lambert. Okay, ratings. IMDb.
Oh God, yeah.
4.9 out of 10.
That's actually higher than I expected.
Rotten Tomatoes, no critics watched this movie or reviewed it.
Really?
But it got 36% in an audience score.
That's pretty low.
And then 81% of Google users liked it.
That's because Graveyard Shift is so entertaining if you just take it for the cheese, which I love.
Right.
No pun intended because of the rat's cheese. Anyway, whatever. Dumb.
Was it Swiss or cheddar?
Cheddar. Remember how you were like, Kelsi likes cheese and corn, and I was like, I love cheese, and you're like, and the stinkier the better.
It is so true.
Yeah,
so true.
I know. I love cheesy movies. I really do.
I know you do.
Let's talk about the actors.
Well, first of all, it was filmed in Maine, actually, believe it or not,
I
in a
didn't
little
realize
village
that.
called Harmony, Maine. And it was filmed at this historic Bartlett Mill, which, did you catch? It was renamed Bachman Mills.
Yes.
As a little nod to Stephen King's, fake name.
Yep, I thought that was great.
Other scenes took place in Bangor, Maine, especially like the restaurant interior and the giant wool picking machine or whatever they showed. Kelly Wolf plays Jane Wisconski. She's the kind of like the love interest of John Hall.
Mhm.
She actually mentions being from Castle Rock.
Yes.
So that was the only things that I could catch that were related to
that
anything
tied in.
else. Yes, for future stories. I rated it a 1.5 stars.
I would rate it 5 stars. Like, because come on, it was so good. Warwick. Let's just analyze Warwick alone. God, everything he says and does is over the top. He literally bites into an apple, and it's the most theatrical, absurd, over the top bite into an apple ever. He's like, it's so absurd. It's so great. Oh my God.
I mean, literally,
his
to me,
accent is ridiculous.
Oh yes, it is very ridiculous. Warwick is played by Stephen Mach, I guess is how
what
you pronounce
else
it.
is he in?
He has done television and some other movies and stuff. Nothing that I've ever heard of or ever watched.
Yeah.
He is familiar to me. So he's obviously like a character actor that's been in like a TV episode of something.
So I'm guessing in the movie they made him have, like, it's never spelled out, I don't think, but he obviously has some kind of military background because he rubs the dirt on his face.
That was
so out of nowhere. I laughed my ass off. And then all of a sudden he could literally walk around this post. And instead he gets on the ground and like shuffles. And then Paul literally laughed out loud, like he could just walk over like around there. He's literally crawling.
Everything about him cracked me up. And
why did he strangle the girl out of nowhere?
I don't know.
They were trying to help him. They're like, oh no, his head's.
That was what I was like. Here they're trying to help you.
Her.
That just goes to show you people who have a conscience or any kind of, moral, any kind of morality or whatever, they like get it in the end.
I know.
Trying to help these bad people.
I think it was because he maybe was scared that they'd get out and say about what they saw. But dude, you got 1 billion people dead. You think people are gonna find out something went wrong here?
I know, it's just so weird to me. So weird. And also too, I don't remember there being like this graveyard attached to the mill in the story.
There wasn't.
And so they made it so prevalent that it was like,
they made it to where that like the rats were coming from there.
Yeah. So I was like, is there something else that's going to happen? I kept like thinking something's happening in the graveyard that's going to go in. And then I'm like, it's graveyard shift, meaning when you work your shift, not you're having a shift in a graveyard. Like, so I didn't know if maybe they did that to kind of like do a play on words.
Yeah. I know. I mean, they obviously had to do a play on words, but like it was pretty literal. I mean, graveyard shift and graveyard shift.
I mean, literally, I put the best thing about this whole entire movie for me were the rats and the exterminator. I love the exterminator.
The exterminator, and Katrina says, and this is who plays the exterminator. I had to look it up just to be sure.
I love him. I put him down. He is so fabulous.
Yes.
For those of you that don't know, his name is Brad Dourif or Dourif. He is the voice of Chucky the doll.
Yeah.
In all of them. He also was Wormtongue in Lord of the Rings.
Yes, I recognize him from Lord of the Rings.
He's a big-time character actor. And also, it wasn't his first film, but it was his big break. He was in the 1975 movie, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, yeah. I love that movie.
Yes. So when I saw him, I thought he was fabulous. He is not in the short story at all. So everything that he does, and this is where I think that's why they did all this extra stuff, is because the short story is not long enough to be a film. So they did take liberties to add a bunch of different things.
Yeah, because they wanted to stretch out.
Also, too, you've got like kind of like some romance happening in it. There was no women in the short story.
It flew by though. Like I know they were trying to make it longer, like to have it be substantial. Like I feel like once we get to the Mangler, they were both bad, but the difference was Graveyard Shift was easier for me to watch. In my opinion.
In Graveyard Shift, to me is the classic movies from the 80s that you and I have watched already.
Yeah.
You know, it falls in those categories of the ones that are super cheesy to me,
Mhm.
but and it's the kind of thing too, because you know that I have done this. I will admit this to everybody in the whole entire world. Um, I have watched bad movies, Christmas Evil,
No!
and
It's so good.
and have gone back. Well, one time I vowed I would never watch it again,
I
and then I
know.
did.
Well, and it was your idea.
And I actually bumped it up
I know.
some ratings. So it's not to say that if I would watch Graveyard Shift again, I might maybe bump it up again, like look at it differently. We've talked about this before. It's kind of hard when you watch something. We just don't have the time to watch something several times. So this
Mhm.
is pretty much our first watch, or in some cases a rewatch after so many
Yeah,
years.
so like an initial reaction and an initial rating without, super long time to absorb and revisit again what we
Yes.
think about it. But so your official rating's 1.5
One
right
and a
now.
half as of right now. But as we know, like if I would watch, let's put it this way, I would rewatch Graveyard Shift.
I would rewatch it
I
too.
would.
In fact, I would rewatch it every year because it's it's so funny. It was so great. Oh my god! Like Rachel was in my Discord and where we talk about King stuff as well for our project. So guys, join the Discord. It's linked below. But Rachel was in there and she's like, "Has anyone watched Graveyard Shift yet? Please, I want to talk about this movie with somebody." And she's like, "Why is everyone in this movie so sweaty all the time?" And then she said, "What the hell's going on with the credits? It's like the lines in the movie turned into a rap. Like what the hell?" And I was like, "What is she talking?" I hadn't watched it yet. I was like, what is she talking about? I wish I would have watched it at the same time. It would be such a great movie to watch as a party.
Yes, a watch party for sure.
Yeah. Oh my god.
I'm glad to see that there's some love for Brad Dourif.
Yeah.
Because he is a character like I like to see in movies.
I
And
liked his
He's got a
role.
pretty substantial credit list to him. David Andrews plays John Hall, who is the drifter. And I don't know. I didn't find the characters very likable. And John Hall just kind of was a dud. I mean, David Andrews' portrayal of him, and he's been in a lot of stuff. It's not
Yeah.
like this is like his one and done movie. He's been in a lot of different movies over the years. And I was just kind of disappointed because I would have thought he would have been different based on his character in the short story. It was kind of like when we watched Cujo, who they chose to be
The dad.
the dad.
Mhm,
It was sort of like,
yeah.
I don't know.
By the way, Rachel says, "Oh my god, let's talk about the ending theme song. 5 stars for that song." I know. I mean, that was like groovy alone. I mean, that was worth it right there. But honestly, also another great part about Graveyard Shift. So when they're going through and they're like, "Oh, there's a hole in the wall. Let me like look at and put my arm in it." And then the meat flying off his arm, like that was so funny. And then the bat head on the freaking thing, like it was just like all mangled, but you could tell it was a bat head.
Yes. Well, one of my favorites too is when the guy throws the skeleton at another guy.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Also, I love how they're like, "Oh, we're in this water, and why is the girl? Why is she running off all the time? She's like running off up the skulls, running off, and then she falls in some water."
And I am sorry, I would not have. The water looked like it had blood in it the whole entire
Yeah,
time.
Paul was like, "Why is it red?"
It looks like, I guess it was the lighting.
That's what he said.
But at the same time, I'm like, they're like basically look like they're swimming in blood. But why would you be in the water?
I don't know.
Why
But then
would you be
so
in the
they
water
get this
after
coffin.
one of the guys dies terribly in the water?
I know. They get this coffin to use as like a flotation device. And then she opens the lid and sees it's a body and screams, "Well, and Paul was like, "What'd you think was in there? Like, what'd you think it was?"
Did you think it was a Halloween decoration?
Yeah, or guess. So good.
And then
the meat flying.
And then
off
I was
his
so sad that the exterminator dies the
I know.
craziest death in a tomb that has nothing to
know.
do with it. Like I could see if like he was
Well-
like fighting the big rat.
I know the rat
creature.
didn't come out, and it's like his head got smashed, and then he got covered up, and he was just looking for his dog.
I know.
And the dog was drunk. I guess that's why it ran off because
I
it was
guess.
sipping on his whiskey. That was so good. Warwick was just so over the top. I mean, I could think of like 1,000 lines that are just throwaway lines that he just took it to like level 15 out of 10. Like, why? I can't even, like, the apple is my favorite like part where it's like nobody would perform it that way.
I know.
Nobody.
I know. It was great. It was
Like,
great.
I wish I had pulled the scene just to show you the apple if you guys don't remember.
This is
it.
my other thing too. Like, everybody's like just so calm too when John Hall goes to the restaurant and they give him a sandwich that has a rat
I
on
know,
it. Like,
no one's like screaming. And also the restaurant, why aren't they pissed? Well, because they've got food and they've got hair in their food. They don't care because they're like, oh, a rat's in here, no big deal. It's unsanitary. We don't care. We got hair in our food.
it's
Whatever.
so nasty, so nasty. I don't want to visit that town.
I honestly think I found like the new Troll 2 for me. So Troll 2 is one of my favorite terrible movies to watch that it's like so bad it's good. There's even a documentary called like the best worst movie, and I'm rewatching the documentary. Oh wait, no, I'm not. That's not on my list. I thought it was on my list. Anyway, it's not on my list, but I wish it was on my list. It's because I just talked about it. That's why.
Yes.
Yeah, I wish I was rewatching it this year, but I think I just recently, like a year or two ago, watched it. But yeah, I love to rewatch Troll 2 and watch the documentary, and it's like together, it's amazing. But Graveyard Shift, the new Troll 2. Also, by the way, really quick, I know I keep going on about Graveyard Shift, but everyone's standing around so calm when he's literally about to punch out a woman in like the parking lot.
I know. I'm like, what the heck?
And what kind of world? Why was he pissed that she was being all affectionate and stuff? Because it was in front of other people. And he's like, I'm going to show her and basically make her work.
And he's so gross. I'm like, ugh.
I know. Why would she want to be with him? Ugh. I know.
I love how Katrina Brown says that movie is hilarious.
Yes,
it's extremely hilarious.
It was so good. Gold.
And hey, Mr. Morningstar,
hi.
welcome.
So glad you're here. We're just laughing about Graveyard Shift at this point because the movie is so much fun. So fun. Yeah. 5 stars or 5 cheeses? I don't know.
I would say 5 cheeses for
5
sure.
cheese slices. That's my rating.
Yes, that would be for you.
Yeah, that's my new rating system. Is
it would either have to be corn or cheese,
exactly.
whichever one.
Both are emojis.
I think for cheese because of the rats.
Yeah, well, yes, it fits way better than corn. Although Stephen King does write about corn too. Cough, cough, Children of the Corn, which is also a Night Shift.
Yes.
But by the way, another story that is so much shorter than the movie. Like, it's crazy how much the movie expands on the short story. It just fills in so many blanks.
I did read somewhere that they were talking about, and I don't know if this is for the ending or not, but they were talking about how they took 1408 and turned that into a full-length movie, and it was so well done that there's no excuse for movies like The Mangler and Graveyard Shift to have been, adapted so poorly.
The Mangler went in a crazy direction too. I mean, the story's crazy as well, but well, like, are we ready to go to The Mangler? Speaking of The Mangler, let's talk about the story first.
Okay, so The Mangler was published...
By the way, before we get into The Mangler, Rachel says 5 rats. Yes, that's a good rating system as well. 5 rats.
The Mangler was published in 1972, again in Cavalier magazine, and then later put into the Night Shift collection. Inspiration, let's see, is on...
Trusty handy book.
Yes, in the book. Okay. Well, yeah, because I'll talk about the other with the movie when we in the magazine. I kind of put it in the order or whatever. So the Mangler, let's see where I have this. I have it tabbed to make sure. I have a lot about the Mangler, so bear with me. The Hadley Watson Model 6 speed iron enfolder is possessed by a demon that was summoned when a virgin's blood accidentally splashed into its workings, of course. It is up to Officer John Hunton to stop the machine's grisly attacks, which involves pulling humans into its rollers and gears and making the blue ribbon laundry safe again for wet sheets and people. When Stephen King graduated from the University of Maine in 1970, he discovered to his dismay that his BA was worth absolutely nothing. Unable to find work as a teacher, King took a job in an industrial laundry.
I don't have my water.
The New Franklin Laundry in Bangor. His experiences working there, coupled with a dynamic and inventive imagination, inspired and informed this terrifying short story. As King said in a 1999 BBC profile, the first thing I am is a husband. The second thing I am is a father. The third thing that I am, I'm a man of my place and my time and my community. And I have to be all those things first, because if I want to be a writer, everything trickles down. The Mangler is stark evidence of this. Everything trickles down. So in the Mangler, King lists the ingredients needed to summon a demon. They are the blood of a virgin, graveyard dirt, belladonna, bat's blood, night moss, horse's hoof, and eye of toad. In the story, the Mangler came to life from Sherry Is it Oulette's blood
Mhm.
and Easy Gel tablets, which contained a derivative of belladonna? That was kind of a stretch.
It was. In the story and in the movie, it was.
So in a 1998 interview with journalist Ben Rauchit, King discussed the real world Mangler. Stephen King says, I worked in the laundry while I was writing for men's magazines. The question was working in the laundry weird? Stephen King says, there was a guy who worked there who fell into the pressing machine, or mangler, as you call it. He was over the machine dusting off the beams when he just lost his balance and fell. Question, and the machine ate his hands? Stephen King, yeah. It swallowed his arms.
Oh my God.
So he had 2 hooks where his hands used to be.
And this is real?
Question, must have been tricky doing up his laces. Stephen King, true. And he always wore a white tie, a white shirt, and a tie. We used to wonder how he got the tie knotted so perfectly. He used to go to the bathroom and run one hook under the hot tap and one under the cold. Then he'd creep up behind you and put the hooks on your neck. That was his little joke.
My God. It's so sinister and weird. No wonder he created that story.
Yes, yeah. So I think in this story, the theme is about technology coming to life, where an entity kind of manifests itself with some kind of object, but it has some kind of murderous intent. I did like the story. I thought it was enjoyable.
I thought it was enjoyable.
I thought it was creepy. I liked the whole premise of summoning a demon, because demons freak me out. I like the fact, I didn't like the fact of how many lives, but it didn't have a happy ending either.
No.
So like Graveyard Shift didn't have a happy ending. This didn't have a happy ending as well. It was enjoyable. It was creepy. I gave it 4 stars as far as the story goes for me.
It was a good short story. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I thought it was very unique, very interesting. I wouldn't have thought to write about a possessed folding machine, but it is interesting to hear about his inspiration, because it makes sense how he came up with the idea. I will say, we're going to talk about the movie very soon. Mr. Morningstar says, I watched The Mangler far too young and had chronic nightmares about getting mechanically squished and pulverized into bloody pulp. Haha. Yes, oh my God, I know. That is pretty creepy, because those machines are kind of scary.
Yes, especially the way it looks in the movie, the big chains going around. Like, I would not personally want to work around machinery like that. I don't even want to use my barbecue pit. So, I'm definitely not going to.
I don't even use a hair dryer.
Like that.
I just let my hair, but not because I'm scared, but I'm not scared of my hair dryer. No, here's the ingredients.
Really, yes.
Little icons to summon a demon. Oh, hopefully you didn't summon it by just.
Oh, I hope not. I hope not. I hope I did not do anything. Well, of course we don't have blood of a virgin, so
no. I guess the symbols don't do anything. It has to be the actual
thing.
Yes.
And what would we possess in your room? Unless we would do the microphone.
Wouldn't it
or
be
your
cool
laptop
if my books came to life and that what was inside of them actually started happening? And look at all these terrible
That
books.
Would be terrible, because you've got quite a few books here with dolls and
vampires,
roaches, vampires, demons, all the things that I don't like.
I don't want my books to get possessed, that's for sure. We don't want to be in the page master in my room or whatever.
Me either. So, are you ready to move on to the film?
Oh, we're already there? Yeah, let's go.
What else can we say about the short story?
The film was so bad.
Yes.
I don't think it was as good as Graveyard Shift in terms of enjoyable badness, because, and I like Robert Englund. It was so weird that he took this role, because one, they changed the story and they added a whole another layer about how the people at the factory and people in the town are in on the Mangler being possessed. Right. And they've made a bargain, like a pact, to get power and wealth from, making a pact with this possessed Mangler. Okay, well, it is in the 5 worst. So obviously Graveyard Shift was not considered, but I was really surprised some of the others on this worst list. But The Mangler was 1995. It's a 1995 film. And in the little blurb, they don't have a picture of it in here, but it says, even Freddy Krueger himself couldn't scare up interest in the Mangler. Robert Englund stars as the owner of a laundromat whose machinery becomes possessed by a demon and starts killing his employees. Even more disturbing, he plans to offer up his virginal daughter to the Mangler in exchange for wealth. Despite being directed by the Texas Chainsaw Massacre's Tobe Hooper,
Horror fans stayed away. It only made 1.1 million its opening weekend. The reviews certainly didn't help. The Los Angeles Times put it best. Consider for a second what you might honestly expect from a movie called The Mangler. Well, it doesn't even aim that high.
I think it's not the name at all. I mean, and I love, again, Robert Englund. So it was just so weird. Like, so when somebody got hurt, he was like going around with his two crutches and he was like, yeah. Like, it was so weird.
It was just very weird because none of that was like the characters in the story at all.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it followed the story as far as like the characters that got killed and what happened to them and the grossness and all that. Like, I liked all of what happened in the short stories as far as like it being grisly and you know, the whole, all the, you know, what possessed the machine and all that they had that part in there, but it was sort of like the reasoning behind it, you know, in the movie just didn't transfer. I mean, they made him just so weird and gross and cartoonish.
And another cartoonish part, the detective police officer.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, he like always like, why is his mouth always full? Because at first, like for the first 20 minutes of the film, he's always chewing something.
It just makes me sad on a lot of reasons. Okay?
Also, that older like photographer guy, like that was a weird thing, and he like just sprays up blood.
And he was more than two people. I don't know if you realize that.
No, who else was he?
He was also the guy who was the mortician dude.
Oh,
didn't you notice he had kind of like a masky weird?
Yeah, his face, his skin looked odd.
Yes, it's very weird. Okay, kind of like Robert Englund's face.
Yeah, it was weird in the movie as well. Yeah. I just thought Robert Englund overacted, the camera guy overacted, the detective guy overacted,
everybody.
The freaking women overacted.
I don't know. It was just a weird movie.
It was very strange.
And it's very sad because Tobe Hooper directed this movie.
And Poltergeist, which is like a classic.
Poltergeist. And the sad thing about it is all his great movies, like you would have thought this was his first film he ever directed. No. Salem's Lot. Okay. I love Salem's Lot. 1979. Even though it's dated. I mean, have you ever watched Salem's Lot? I mean, it's dated as far as clothing and all that. And it was a made for television. I mean, I gave it 4 stars. I mean, I liked it because
it's effective though.
It has the creepiest scene ever in there.
Oh,
and I've talked about the
kid,
little boy or whatever. I'm still afraid of him today. Texas Chainsaw Massacre was 1974. That is a classic movie.
It is.
Poltergeist, 1982. This was 1995.
I don't understand. What happened to you?
Okay. IMDb 4.3 out of 10.
I'm surprised it's that high, though.
Which is lower than Graveyard Shift.
Well, it should be.
Rotten Tomatoes, we did have some critics, and it was 27%. They gave them 27%, 18% audience. One critic for Rotten Tomatoes said folding his own laundry was scarier than what was happening in the movie.
It was not scary, yeah.
Google users, 78%. I am shocked by that number.
Yeah.
I thought for sure it would be lower than that. And then I told you the Stephen King, you know, information
the CGI
in there.
is terrible too.
Oh my God.
Of the Mangler coming to life.
And then this was weird. I looked this up on IMDb, and according to them, the locations for filming this movie were London, South Africa, and Los Angeles.
What?
So I don't know if that is accurate.
South Africa? Would they film there?
I don't know, but that is what is on there. I don't know, and that could be wrong, but it was on the IMDb website. I mean,
that's crazy.
I didn't have any time to really investigate that, but that's what would come up every time because I like double checked it, and I was kind of shocked by that. But as we have mentioned, Robert Englund, who is famous for Freddy Krueger, which he does a phenomenal job.
He's done a phenomenal job, and he's a very smart guy. I'm just very puzzled why he chose to be in this movie. Maybe he thought there was like some layers to it, but like it's just so over the top. His character,
I hated his character.
I hated his character.
He plays Bill Gartley, who owns this mill or factory with this machine, this possessed machine,
and he's a perv.
He's a pervert. I couldn't stand the scene. Like it was so like gross to watch when
she's like, "You want to join me?" And then he comes over.
I was like, no wonder the women don't like you. I mean, look at what you're doing. Like you're basically sleeping with the devil, basically. But he was so gross.
I know.
So
He really was.
I didn't like it at all.
And it didn't help that it was so cartoonish. I
And
mean,
he had the thing, like he was breathing through that like tube
Mhm.
thing, and he would make
and
those
when he would laugh,
noises.
yeah, oh god, no.
I did not like it.
I didn't like it either. I didn't like it at all.
No, I did think it was really hilarious though when he gets his comeuppance and he falls on the machine, which was so funny how he like gets hooked on the bar and then he's thrown on the machine right by
It's
the
like
the woman who's all mutilated with her head. It's convenient how her head was still
like
there.
whole, yeah.
And then they like fold him and then he's still alive. I'm
I
like,
know,
really?
like
How
he'd be
possible
alive.
is that?
Yeah, I did love that. I did laugh at that, and I also laughed. The officer, like there was some parts of the officer where he was just like so over the top. He's like, "A woman died," like when he was describing to his brother-in-law, and then he said it like 3 times, like "A woman died."
Well, that's another thing that's sad. Ted Levine plays Officer John Hutton. You know who he was? He was Buffalo Bill in Silence of the Lambs.
Oh, that is him. You're right. Oh my
gosh,
he's a good actor. What is wrong with
him? And guess
him?
what? Silence of the Lambs was before this.
What?
I'm like, what is wrong? How? Because he's also been in other things. It's not like he was like desperate for money or something. I would hope.
I don't understand the way he acted in this movie.
I hated the fact that he was in his like trench coat jacket everywhere. He was either eaten. He just like there was no backstory to him whatsoever as far as like, and then his poor little guy, Mark Jackson, the guy who played Mark Jackson, Daniel Matmore, who
he was so mean to him.
Yes, he doesn't have an extensive list of things he's done, but I kind of felt bad for him.
I did too. He's just trying to help and he gets freaking destroyed.
Exactly. I don't know. The acting was subpar. That's what I put. Subpar.
And by the way, they go through all this trouble to save the girl who's a virgin, and she just turns bad anyway because part of her,
that was.
I guessed it. I told Paul when he's going to see her, I was like, she's gonna be run the mill and evil. Watch, because everyone who loses a limb has a part of the Mangler.
Oh, and I hated that when she was like holding her fingers gone, and I'm just
and
like,
she was like, "Yo," well, he was more like, "I can't do it," because you could see that it's "Yo," like, and then she's like, "I'm evil now, bye." Like, I don't know, it's ridiculous.
I don't know. I didn't like it. I didn't like how she was like turned into his character basically.
I didn't like it either. She was so sweet, and then, well, I mean, she was overacting too, but still. All right, let's talk about equipment and machines that we're scared of, because I have an answer to this. Katrina says she actually is scared of blow dryers, and this is actually very scary. I got my hair sucked in the back of one when I was little. She says,
that is terrible.
That is no wonder you're scared. I'd be scared of that too. And I've had my hair go in a little bit, but not like big time. Like that freaks me out. But I'm scared of escalators. Similar reason. I just remember hearing a story when I was little about somebody getting their shoestrings stuck in, or somebody tripping. Like both stories I heard. Someone get their shoestring and they get all mangled by the foot. Then somebody falling and tripping and their hair getting sucked in and basically descalped. You know, or whatever it's called, scalped, whatever. Their scalp comes off basically. Anyway, so Paul always laughs at me. My family always laughs at me. When we get on the escalator, like I pause for a second and I like kind of wait before a few steps go. And I just kind of like gingerly step. I'm really bad at getting on escalators.
I don't like escalators either they just seem creepy to me. Not that I've ever had any kind of an issue with one, but now that you've told me that story, now if I get on an escalator, that is going to be creeping me out.
I know you don't like bridges.
I don't like bridges at all.
Like over water too.
In fact, Barry just went over this really big bridge this week. I wish I could remember what the name of it was. Steep, and he had to go over it in his 18-wheeler. My husband drives an 18-wheeler for it's a chemical truck for his company, and he had to go over this bridge, which is kind of steep, and it doesn't really have good railings on the end. I'll have to try to show you a picture of it after.
That's scary sounding.
But it is very scary. He knows how I feel. There's also a bridge in when you're going to Sulphur that I had to drive Andrew and me over this bridge when he had his state swim meet, and it is super steep, and I drive a manual. And I'm always afraid, and I've driven one ever since I was young. I learned on one, and that's what my car is today. But I always have a fear of being on an incline and my car killing.
And then rolling
backwards into the person behind me. So I always am like, I can handle being on the bridge. Let me get crest over the top and then I'm fine or whatever. But that one's a super steep one. And it freaks me out. And I don't want anybody to talk to me. Of course, Andrew makes fun of me. He tells me I have an irrational fear. But
I think my escalator thing's an irrational fear, but like it's just something that I've like always had for like as long as I can remember. Like 7 or 8, I was still like looking down and being like, I don't like to get on like other people just get on, and I'm like, I can't.
I'm afraid.
Rachel agrees about it takes her a few steps.
I'm afraid of lighting an oven that the pilot goes out because true story.
Me too.
As a child, my sister and I, we stayed home once we got old enough, and I went to bake, and our pilot went out, and I had to light it. And the gas was on and fire shot out and singed my hair in the front. And that my sister took off and ran and left me.
And you got damaged.
I'm like, so that scares me now. So I will not do anything with a barbecue pit that has propane, and that's how ours is. I will not ever cook on it. And also, I had the misfortune of almost having like a grease fire with oil frying something when I was in college. And so I don't fry anything in oil, like deep fry anything, because it scares me. So once you've had any kind of, or you've heard a terrible story about something, you stay away from all that.
Well,
kind of
another
stuff.
one, it's not a machine, but I get really finicky about like throwing away razors, like how I throw them away. Like I have to have the top on them because Sharon Snowdy, you remember Sharon Snowdy?
Yes.
Sharon told me that when her and her sister Estelle were kids, they threw away a disposable razor in the garbage and it didn't have a top on it. And their dad went to go take it out and he cut the hell out of his finger.
Oh no.
And like that. Once they told me that, now every time I go to throw away a razor, I'm freaked out. I'm like, I need the top on it. And I even get weird with the top on it. I'm like, I gotta face it down. I gotta put stuff on top of it. If someone goes to take this garbage out, they're getting cut. Like, I'm freaked out.
Well, and then last one is I will not ride a riding lawnmower. I am so afraid that somehow my feet or something's gonna get cut off, which is so ridiculous. Okay,
I can understand.
Okay, but I will not ride on one. I am like, I cannot. I would rather cut my grass with a push mower, like a regular standard, because I feel like I have control. Like it'll be in front of me, can't cut my feet off. I can let it go. Can you imagine if it got possessed though?
I know. Or if an escalator got possessed, it could really do some damage.
Yes, I think so.
I mean, super. Yeah, Arlene says London underground escalators petrifying. Yes. Because I've been over there. I almost was going back, but not this year.
But it just goes to show. I mean, Stephen King, that is a theme in quite a few of his other stories. Is Christine, for example, it gets possessed. I mean, there's other stories and there's other novels that he's written where, you know, some kind of possession takes over an everyday item or whatever.
And
it is scary because, I mean, little things can do damage. I mean,
yeah, they can. I just like that trope. It's a neat trope.
Now, one thing I will say, I did like that it was gory. I mean, they had some good gore in it.
They did. I mean, the poor old lady.
I know. I felt kind of bad for her, but I hated the fact that she like kept reaching.
I know.
Like, I mean, I'm like the filming. It's like, really?
Yeah,
like it needed to be a little more natural.
Yeah,
to me,
there are some bad cuts in there for sure. But what is your rating for this movie?
1.5 stars.
See, I don't know what to do. I think about 1.5's right though. I think that's a good rating for it.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like compared to Graveyard Shift, I'm almost like wondering if I should bump Graveyard Shift up to maybe 2.
I mean, because there's the laugh factor at least. I mean, there's a little bit of a laugh factor in the Mangler, but I don't know. It's just not as enjoyable. Like there were times where
now that I'm talking about it, I feel like maybe I should bump it up. I don't know.
I mean, there's some great funny parts in the Graveyard Shift, but when Paul he watched Graveyard Shift with me and the Mangler with me, he thought they were both terrible. Like I said, he doesn't really buy into good bad movies. However, he laughed out loud during the Graveyard Shift movie, but he barely laughed out loud with the Mangler, and he didn't even recognize that it was Robert Englund, even though he knows who that is. Really? I didn't really even, I kind of knew, but like it wasn't until afterwards that I was like, oh yeah, that was him. But also, he paused the movie once, and he was like, damn, we still got an hour left. And so it was a little too long, too, the Mangler.
Yes, it was.
So he didn't say that about Graveyard Shift. Like I said, it felt like it moved quicker, personally.
Graveyard Shift reminded me more of like the movies from like the 80s. And I guess it makes sense since it was closer to I mean, it was at the beginning of the 90s. So, I was just disappointed. I mean, I gave it a little, I guess I'd half-star extra just because
At least you could
it
take
had
joy
some
in it. Yeah.
gore factor in it. But so I think maybe I need to bump Graveyard Shift up.
I think you do. Arlene says pressure cookers. How dare anyone? There actually one exploded on my aunt at my house. So it was after
Oh, my
Hurricane
God.
Katrina. So my aunt and my mama and papa were living with us.
I would not own one of those because I've heard horror stories about those.
It like my aunt, I come home from school, high school, my aunt like has her shirt off and just coming out in her bra, and like her whole chest is red,
Oh,
like
no.
burns, 2nd-degree burns, and she's running out the house. I'm like, oh my God, what happened? She's like, the pressure cooker just blew up.
That is awful.
I only feel comfortable using one now because I worked on the cooking show with Kevin Belton. I worked on a cooking show set, and we actually had to do like a tutorial on how to like put the pressure cooker together. That was one of the things we did, and I kind of understood it, and I know what it means with the valve, drops or the pin drops, and you have to release the gas, and I understand how it works.
Yeah,
So
I
I'm
wouldn't
okay
wanna
with
use
it, but
that.
I'm scared.
That
yeah.
is extremely scary.
And Katrina agrees about the underground escalators. They are crazy steep, she says. Also, Rachel says it's the worst when you pause it and you think there's maybe 10 minutes left and you still have an hour. That's what the Mangler was. Me and Paul were like, seriously, how could there be this much more in this movie? We were literally flabbergasted when there was still an hour. So,
okay, so last, but certainly not least,
or maybe it is least.
Right.
I don't know. We'll see.
Oh,
all right,
my
Lawnmower
God.
Man. I actually think this story was quite entertaining, and it was so short and snappy.
I love this story.
Me
I
too.
do.
Me too.
It was published in May of 1975, again in Cavalier Magazine, made its way into Night Shift collection. Inspiration behind this is mythology. And as we know, Stephen King does kind of like to dip his toe into mythological, things or folklore or whatever. We saw that with the psychopomps in The Dark Half,
Mhm.
and I'm sure we could, if we looked at other stories, we
could
would
probably find more
inspiration as well. There was actually a comic book adaptation of The Lawnmower Man.
Really?
Yes.
I'd love to
I'm going to share with you about that. It was in the December 1981 issue of Bizarre Adventures magazine. The text was by King and the artwork was by Walter Simonson. The story was very close to the original text version, except in a few instances where King changed characters' names or created a name like Name in the Lawnmower Man, Karas, and the Smith's cat, Shasta. In the Bizarre Adventures version, the mother of the boy who used to cut Harold's lawn before he went off to college was Mrs. Stark. In The Dark Half, George Stark is the pseudonym Thad Beaumont used for his mystery novels.
Oh, cool. A little connection with the comic version.
Yes. So I think it was well received, as far as a comic book. In this story, I think the theme is don't make the gods angry.
Yes. Oh my God, yes.
If you do, you'll pay dearly.
Rachel says last and best. So are you referring to the story, Rachel? You liked the short story?
Yes, I
love the short story. To me, the short story would be 5 stars.
It was dark comedy, funny, short. I enjoyed
weird,
it.
like
yes,
strange,
very weird.
zany.
Yes. So more,
I enjoyed it much more than the movie, which went insane, weird direction.
I enjoyed it very much. I gave it a 4-star read for me. I guess just because I wanted it to be a little bit longer.
Me too, but I think it did fit with what it was. But I would have loved to have spent more time with the Lawnmower Man.
Yes, that is my thing. As I wish it would have been a little bit longer.
You were the Lawnmower Man in our JPEG.
Yes. Did you notice?
Guys, she used the lawnmower for the picture.
I actually borrowed my neighbor's lawnmower.
See?
My neighbor John, who lives across the street, we borrowed his lawnmower. And you like my get out?
I love how you can't tell because of the shadow on your face, but you're like frowning, and it's great. It's like, I'm not happy to be mowing lawn. By the way, I have a fake rat on my shoulder. I don't know. It doesn't really look that good, like, because it kind of blends into my face, but it is a fake
No, I
rat.
think it's hilarious.
And look, I made the little rats have red eyes next to me. Like, oh no, it's from Graveyard Shift.
Yes, and my husband was a good sport. He took my picture.
Yes.
He took my picture when I did the Misery one too.
I know, and I love that one. When Kat was holding an axe for Misery, it was great. It was one of my favorite pictures ever, and you look so angry and mean.
And I am not nearly that angry or mean.
You're not angry or mean at all. I guess your kids would probably argue about being angry sometimes.
Yeah, so I really love the short story. I thought the short story was great. I love the fact that you have this satyr is the comes to cut his grass. They make references to Pan. And I mean,
I just love how he's on the phone with the police. He's like, there's a naked man. The man I hired to mow my lawn is naked.
I love the fact that the lawnmower is going by itself and he's like eating the grass and everything.
Like, that imagery in your head is just so disturbing of someone following a lawnmower, because you could like picture it and it's naked. It's weird. And he's eating. It's just all very strange. I would have loved to have seen the comic to see how the artist animated
that would have been hilarious. And
I kept waiting for that to happen in the Lawnmower Man movie, and it didn't happen.
I think that's what the jip of the Lawnmower Man is ridiculous. The whole movie.
There's only one little teaser part with somebody getting mowed over.
Yeah. But I mean, the story itself was just great to me.
Yes.
I love how, it's like so off the wall. He decides he's going to actually, of course he faints, after he sees the poor little animal, wasn't in a mole that gets obliterated.
Mm-hmm.
And, he faints or whatever, and he comes to, and then he decides he's going to call the police or whatever, which is a big mistake, and the man even says it. I loved
you should have said, worshiper, Lord be the grass, or God praise the grass. What was the phrase he said? I can't remember, but something about like loving the grass.
Yes.
You should have kept with that, buddy. And then he starts to mow him.
Yes, it was just oh, wait.
And I just read this, and it's like I'm having problems remembering. It's ridiculous.
No, it's just because we had 3 of them, and we're doing other stuff too. We're reading other things as well. That was what it was funny was he swerved and then he ate the mole.
Oh, I forgot he ate the mole. I forgot he ate the mole.
And then it was the chipmunk, right? No, that was with the hair.
You fainted, buddy, right? Huh? I like the way he talks is really great too. The Lawnmower Man.
But there was the one.
God bless the grass. There it is. Yes.
Oh yeah, that's before. Oh yeah,
there's a man mowing my lawn. He's in the
nude, unclothed, bare-assed on my front lawn. Now, will you get somebody the hell over here?
It's great.
And he's like, you say he's definitely naked? You're able to observe his genitals and so on.
That's great.
Oh my gosh. I loved it. There was just so many different things about it that was great.
I love this line, like where the Lawnmower Man catches him on the phone. He's, you should have stuck with God bless the grass. Like, that was a mistake, buddy. I don't know why it kind of sounds like from South Park. There's these characters, Terrence and Phillip, who are always like, buddy, friend, guy. That's what the lawnmower guy reminds me of.
I mean, it was hilarious. And then I love when the policemen come and they're discussing what happens and they find a part in the bird bath.
Yes.
And then he's like, oh, sex maniac must have been. And then like, prints, you mean footprints? And then they're looking at the lawn. I mean, it was just like so great to me.
It is. I honestly think it's a wonderful story. So before we talk about the movie, let's rank all the stories since we talked about them all.
Yes.
Real quick.
Okay, you go first.
Okay. So from best to or favorite to least favorite, or
what do you want to do? I don't care.
Let's do least favorite to favorite.
Okay.
All right. So least favorite story would definitely be Graveyard Shift, just because I think it could have been longer, more well-rounded, more fleshed out. I just wanted more, and not wanting more in a good way. Like, and there was things unanswered, like why did he want to go down there and put himself as in danger and call attention to this doorway to this sub-level. So yes, definitely last place, Graveyard Shift story. Second place, Mangler. I enjoyed it, but not my favorite. Lawnmower Man's my favorite story of the 3 short stories because it was short, sweet, snappy. I don't know. It was great. It was
Humor,
fun.
yes,
Yeah.
and gross parts in
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And it was just weird. And I liked that.
Well, guess what? Mine are in the same exact order.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Graveyard
We're on the
Shift.
same page.
Yes. Graveyard Shift was not, out of the three, I liked all of them. I enjoyed all of them. But best one was Lawnmower Man, then Mangler, then Graveyard Shift.
So
pretty much for the same reasons that you're saying.
Of course. And the movies are going to be harder to rank, but let's talk about the Lawnmower Man, the movie first, and then we'll rank the movies.
Yes. Okay. So Lawnmower Man, the movies, okay, right here. 1992. So it came out after, our other movies.
It came out before the one from 1995.
That's right.
The Mangler.
Right. That's right. It came out before that. So it was in between, right?
I thought the acting wasn't so bad in this one, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, the director was Brett Leonard. He's a director, writer, producer, and I think he's done some acting. He actually made a movie called Virtuosity, which had Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe in it.
Oh.
It wasn't widely like received by the critics or whatever, but it's what he's kind of famous for besides The Lawnmower Man. He's also done some music videos with Billy Idol and Peter Gabriel, which I like both of those.
Yeah.
Musicians. Ratings 5.4 out of 10, higher than both of our others. Rotten Tomatoes 37% by the critics, 31% audience score. Google users 79%. Highest earning independent film of 1992 with $32 million.
Really?
Opened
surprising.
Second place at the box office behind Wayne's World.
Wow.
I happen to love Wayne's World. Can you believe that? Okay.
I don't remember hearing about this movie back in the day, but I was young.
Filmed various locations in California. I think people who watched this movie knew nothing about the short story.
Well,
they could not have watched the short story, because I think that's part of why
you got to take it as a standalone almost, because there's really only one little reference to the short story even.
Okay, so in our magazine, it is listed as one of the 5 worst.
The worst adaptations.
And it says, the sci-fi horror flick about a homicidal virtual reality lawnmower was billed as a King adaptation, but it featured only one scene from his original short story. In the book version, a homeowner is murdered by the man he hires to cut his grass. Sounds scary enough. But the film centers around a CGI lawnmower man, a simple-minded gardener, made smarter and murderous when a scientist experiments on him. It's so cringeworthy that King sued to scrub his name entirely from the project on the basis it bore no meaningful resemblance to his work. Despite the failure, a sequel, Lawnmower Man 2, Beyond Cyberspace, was released in 1996 to even worse reviews than the original, if that's possible. Okay, and then
Rachel, did you end up watching the second one? I think you posted a picture with the second one.
That's the picture of Joby, who is the Lawnmower Man. Now, the disc that I got from Netflix had both on it, and I thought to myself, well, if it's a decent movie, I'll watch the second one. No.
Oh, did you watch the director's cut of Lawnmower Man, or do you not know?
I don't think it was.
The version I watched on YouTube, it said it was the director's cut. So I don't know if that replaces things that you missed out on.
Okay. Well,
but mine, it was like 2.5 hours long, but I watched it on 2 times speed because Kat said when she was watching it, she texted me and said, oh my God, Lawnmower Man is so bad, it's painful to watch. And I had super low expectations. I actually liked it more than I thought. After you bashed it like that, I was like expecting the worst movie ever. And I didn't.
I think for me, it was so boring. I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, like, literally, I just found it boring.
I actually found it kind of fascinating and interesting, but it could have been shorter. But like going at 2 times speed, can I really accurately judge it because I got to watch it a lot quicker and save time?
And
I don't know.
Wondering too, I guess too, the fact that it had nothing to do with the short story.
So Rachel says the reason it got high box office numbers, perhaps it's because of the name recognition with Bronson and Fahey. Maybe so, but also, by the way, Rachel did watch Lawnmower Man 2 and she's got no regrets.
Oh my God.
So did you like it actually? Like, did you enjoy it? And also tell us your thoughts about the first one, because you said you liked both the story and the movie. I actually didn't mind the movie too much.
Well,
in terms of acting, it had the best acting out of the 3 movies. I thought Pierce Brosnan was good, but he did look like he
Maybe
had a
so.
shag carpet. Like you,
Oh
I
yeah,
did see
maybe
that.
so, maybe so. In my little book here, it goes into depth about why, Stephen King sued. In 1992, New Line Cinema released the film Stephen King's The Lawnmower Man, starring Jeff Fahey, Pierce Brosnan, and Jenny Wright. It was directed by Brett Leonard from Leonard's own screenplay. This film was a virtual reality sci-fi story that bore little to no resemblance to Stephen King's short story, yet they were promoting it as Stephen King's The Lawnmower Man. King sued and won, because literally there is only one scene, except for because they don't even name him in the book. There's one scene, and that's when the abusive father dies the way Harold
And they
dies
mentioned
in
the
the
bird
short
bath.
story.
Yeah.
Right.
So basically, the bird bath and the way he dies is the same.
Exactly.
Other than that, no.
No. The court issued an injunction preventing New Line from using King's name to sell the film and awarded King $2.5 million in damages. In 1993, King got suspicious about whether or not the studio was complying with the court order and hired private investigators to visit video stores and determine if the copies no longer had his name on them. They did have his name on them, and King went back to court. New Line was found in contempt of court, and King was awarded $10,000 a day.
Wow.
For each day the violating video was still available. King was also awarded all the profit from the video release. King's lawyer, Peter Herbert, said, Stephen is thrilled and feels he's been vindicated.
Wow. That's like
how mad Stephen King was.
Yeah, he did not like it. He did not like the movie. Oh my gosh.
I mean, do you blame him if you take a story and didn't...
You basically twist and change the entire thing.
I mean, totally different.
So Barry S. is here and says, sorry I'm late, but my friend's dad actually worked on Graveyard Shift and created the large bet for the film.
Awesome!
We were just talking about how fun Graveyard Shift was. You kind of missed it, but we were just talking about how I gave it 5 cheeses because some of the acting was a little cheesy, but I loved it. I thought it was great, and I liked Large Bat Creature. It was the whole idea of it coming and going through the machine was a little absurd, but I liked that. It was a lot of fun. That is so cool that your friend's dad worked on that.
Yes, I think so.
Beyond cool. So Rachel says the second Lawnmower Man was one of those cases of, oh man, there's still another hour left. Yes.
Yeah, I heard it was really bad. But anyway, the thing about, one thing I have to say about the Lawnmower Man is the director was kind of like the first that was doing all of this virtual reality stuff. So this movie, Lawnmower Man 2 and Virtuosity, were all like kind of like him coming in on the scene of doing all of this. So, I mean, there were parts on it that I thought were kind of cool. Like I did think it was cool about the virtual reality and all of that kind of stuff. I don't know. I just think it was so far from it. And I hated like the whole sex scene with Joby, and I just didn't like that between him and Marnie Burke. And then there was just parts that dragged. It was kind of boring. I hated the whole scene in the beginning. I mean, you could tell it was not a real monkey, at the beginning or whatever. I don't know. There was just parts of it I didn't like. And then
I guess I was entertained to see what direction they went with it, since it was obviously from like the very first 5 minutes you could tell it was so different from the story, that you knew it was going to be completely separate and changed. It was kind of interesting because I didn't know where it was going in a way.
Yeah.
So in that way, I didn't get too bored. But again, it's so hard to accurately compare it to your experience because I listened or watched it so fast.
Yeah.
And it's because I'm addicted to podcasts. I even told Paul, Kat's warning me that this is so bad, I'm going to rent it on YouTube just to watch it on 2 times speed. Right. But it really wasn't as bad as I thought.
I mean, and also it left you, like, that would be something that I would be curious about, Rachel, is did Lawnmower Man 2 pick up where Lawnmower Man 1 ended? Because it left you with the fact that Joby did successfully reach the goal that he wanted because all the phones ring at the end, kind of thing. And I did like the cheesy little ending at the end with the fact that his wife went away and he now, was able to be with his neighbor and the son and kind of raise them and they were going to be a family or whatever. But there was just aspects of it. I hated the whole bringing the religious element in there, where he was constantly being chastised and beaten and punished by the priest, and
then he sets the priest on fire.
I just think
crazy.
there was just too many other little subplots going on except for the story, you know.
And it was so sad that the priest's brother, who was running the lawn mowing service with Job, that he got shot and killed, because he really cared for him.
I liked him, and I liked the fact, I liked their relationship together. But I mean, I like Pierce Brosnan. I mean, he is like, he's 007 at some point in his career. He was also in Bag of Bones, which is another novel by Stephen King, and I thought he did a great job in that movie. Jeff Fahey plays Job, and I don't know if you know, but Jeff Fahey was in Lost. You remember him, but he's a great character actor too. He's been in a lot of things, like this character. I mean, he's like a captain, like I think he's like the boat captain guy.
Oh, I don't remember. I mean, I've seen Lost like a billion times, but I don't remember this.
I think it's great when you see these characters in earlier things, and then you realize that they've been in other stuff, and then you go back and you watch it, and you're like, wow, it just like takes on new meaning for you. The director was played by Dean Norris, who has been in several things. I think he was mentioned as being in Breaking Bad. I haven't seen Breaking Bad, but I do know the
Army director.
The director guy who was the big face on the screen. Oh, that was him. But he's also in Under the Dome. He plays a bad character in Under the Dome.
Yes.
Terry McKean, who is Job's uncle, is Geoffrey Lewis. Big time character actor. He was in Salem's Lot. Love that. I've seen him in many, many things. I did not know this until I started researching. He is Juliette Lewis's dad.
Oh yeah, I heard about that.
And I mean, she's also a wonderful actress, you know, but he's no longer alive, unfortunately. And then Jenny Wright is played by Jenny Wright plays Marnie Burke, who happens to be in Near Dark.
I've been dying to read Near Dark. I mean, watch Near Dark. I cannot find it anywhere.
I know. I'm the same way, because remember, we were going to try to do it for last year.
I know.
And we couldn't find it.
It keeps disappearing, and I want to see it so bad because I love Bill Paxton.
Yeah, and I love the movie. I've seen the movie like eons ago.
Yeah,
it is a good movie.
I heard it's great, and it's not available streaming anywhere.
Well, Jenny Wright's 60 years old now, but she only worked from 81 to 98.
Wow, it's not that long.
So not very long, but she's been in quite a few different movies. And her character very, very seductive. You know? But I didn't like that plot of, you know, them, you know, having their sexual escapades. I didn't like the fact that the whole religious aspect, that little thing, I think they could have left both of those out, and it still could have been a little bit better. I think it was like all over the place too, instead of like really what the story was supposed to be about. So kind of like you didn't know where it was going to go. Right. I give it 1 star.
Wow, that's like the lowest rating you gave.
Yeah.
I am giving it a 2.5 star.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it was okay. I thought it was interesting. It's not 5 cheeses or anything, but you know. So anyway, let's rank our movies now real quick. So do you want me to go first or you?
You can go first.
All right, so I'm going to go from least favorite to favorite. So least favorite, I guess, The Mangler. It's almost tied in a way, even though it's different ratings. I mean, I enjoyed them for different reasons, Lawnmower Man and Mangler. But okay, second is Lawnmower Man, and first, of course, and favorite is Graveyard Shift, bitch, because it was so funny and fun, and I cannot wait to rewatch it. Maybe next year or the year after.
Okay, well, we are not in agreement on this.
Okay,
my worst is Lawnmower Man.
Yes.
And then The Mangler was better, even though there was cringeworthy parts in there. And then Graveyard Shift, I like the best.
So we had this number 1 spot the same.
Yes. And I just have to mention, did I mention this? I don't know if I mentioned it or not. There's a scene where Pierce Brosnan is in bed. Oh my God. Immediately when I saw it, he had so much chest hair. I was like, Lord,
she texted me and she's like, pay attention to Pierce Brosnan in the opening scene in the bed. His chest hair is like a shag carpet, she says.
Oh my God. I was like, oh my God.
And it was pretty hairy. I was like, whoa, shag carpet. Rachel said, She read that the first movie, Lawnmower Man, was getting made into a TV series at one point, but not sure if that ever got the final green light. How interesting would that be if they almost made the story more like Stephen King's?
Oh yeah,
versus
I think
what the
that would
Lawnmower Man
be.
did.
I think that would be
But
great.
she's referencing the movie
Yeah,
itself
oh,
being
yeah.
made into a TV show, I guess, following him.
Well, and the crazy thing is I believe when they first had this idea of, they weren't going to call it the Lawnmower Man. It was going to be something else,
They
like
shouldn't have.
Cyborg something or other. And
They wanted to bank off of Stephen King's story and name.
I think they wanted to, but to me, it just didn't. I don't know. It didn't. It just fell flat because, for one thing, you know, they're taking a simple-minded person, you know, and then they turn him in this high, you know, super hyper intelligent person, and then he wreaks havoc all over the town, like trying to get revenge. And then you almost wonder, now that he's in the world, you know, the way he is virtually, is he going to be like a vigilante and, you know, kill the people? Did Rachel say if it picked up? I don't think she said.
Oh, yeah, but the second movie, Rachel, Kat was asking, does it pick up where the first movie left off, or is it like unrelated beginning, or like way later? Barry says you guys should review. We're not reading or watching any of these, sadly. You should review Night Flyer, Desperation, and Sleepwalkers for your next King movies. I've never seen any of those. I want to see Sleepwalkers. But you know, this year we've got all of our movies and stories and books mapped out, but we could do this in a future year, not next year.
Yeah, not next year.
I need a King break, only because it's so dense for every month. It's been like a hardcore year in terms of reading all
I'm pretty proud of ourselves.
Yeah.
Ourselves.
I'll be proud when I get through Needful Things. Then I'll be proud. Because
I think you're going to like Needful Things, and I think you're going to go through it pretty quickly because the story is awesome, in my opinion.
Well, I know you watched my video, but did you catch when I said that I'm cheating and waiting till like, because isn't our chat like November?
Yes. November 6th, I believe, is what we have it slated for.
On November 1st, I'm starting. Do you think I could finish it in that time?
I think so.
If I literally make myself read per day.
Believe it or not, back in the day when I read it within a couple of days. Like it was the type of book that you can't put down. It's heavy with characters. So
I like that.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. I like it. I think you're going to like it. It has creepy vibes in it. And to me, the adaptation was good when I saw it years ago. It was a movie made for the screen or whatever. And
but it's got some good actors in it, though.
Very, very good actors.
So I'm not looking forward to reading it. It's just that I've got so much planned for Halloween already for reading, and I didn't read a lot for Halloween last year either in terms of full-length books, and I want to do better this year. And with all the other movies I'm watching, I'm like, I'm going to have to read Needful Things from November 1st through November 5th and also watch the movie in that time. So that is my goal, and I think I could do it, and I hope I can do it.
But getting back to Barry's recommendations, in the future, we don't know when, but in the future, we will consider doing, you know, reading those stories, or because Desperation's a novel.
And Halco says loves Sleepwalkers.
Yeah, so that is something we could you know, put in a future.
Yeah, we could make sure they're included in a future
look and see
project.
When they kind of take place, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Rachel. Rachel says,
hold on. Didn't recall if Lawnmower Man 2 starts off where Lawnmower Man 1 takes leaves off. I think I blocked it from my mind. Yes. And Halco says, I started Needful Things and I'm loving it so far. Yay! Great news. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I am excited to start it too, but I also am excited about all my Halloween reading.
Yeah.
What are you reading right now?
I currently just finished this morning Harvest Home, which, guys, if you have not read Harvest Home, I highly recommend it. It is a slow burn novel, but oh my gosh, it's so good. I am going to have to revisit the movie, which freaked me out when I was younger, because it is from the 70s. It's only on
YouTube, and I only found it because of Rachel.
It's from the 70s, which I was born in 69, so I was young. I probably should not have watched that movie, but I remember it freaking me out, and I remember Bette Davis being Mother, the widow, in there, and which is unusual to me. I mean, I know Bette Davis back in the day played, you know, sinister characters and stuff like that. Not always nice characters, but it was just the fact that she was in this movie.
This whole town was so well rounded in the book too. And in terms of the movie, though, I started to watch it, but then I gave up on it a little bit because even at 2 times speed, it was feeling so slow to me, and I couldn't buy into it because I actually liked the main character in the novel for the most part, except for sometimes. But in the movie, he's a dick from like, the word go.
Right. So you ended up not
So
wanting
it's
to
like I
ruin it
can't
for you.
even sympathize with him,
Yeah, our book club is going to be discussing it on Tuesday. I cannot wait, but I would highly recommend that for the fall, spooky season, because it's definitely has those vibes. And I'm also reading Anne of Avonlea. I read other books besides horror stories, and I'm doing a little challenge, more Montgomery challenge, so that's why I'm reading that.
Yeah.
But I will be starting Needful Things, and I can't wait to dive in.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I'm currently reading a book called When Halloween Was Green, and it's got like Irish folklore like in the story, and I'm really excited. I'm only a little bit in, like 17 pages in, but I'm hoping to have that done before September ends. So that's what I'm currently reading. Love to hear about what you guys are reading before we wrap up. I will read some more comments here. Daniel says, this was so much fun. See you next month. Needful Things novel and movie are both excellent.
Yes.
TBS showed an extended version of the made-for-TV movie, I'm
good.
guessing. Also, Rachel says, yes, Harvest Home is for free on YouTube in its entirety, and that's where I saw it because Rachel had it linked on her Letterboxd. So I went to go watch it, and it is kind of blurry too. But Rachel, are you going to end up watching it at some point? Because I know you're reading the book with us. But and I know it's on your Halloween list. I just don't. I was having a hard time. It was on my Halloween list, but I changed it out just because of the Ned thing. I was like, Ned, I hate you in the movie. Whereas I was scared for him in the book. In the book, it is a slow burn for sure, but there is a sense of like dread running through the book and underneath everything. Sometimes it's super subtle, but it's there. And the ending has stuck with me.
And just to let y'all know, there is a short story, Mr. Harrigan's Phone, that is in If It Bleeds, the collection, and the movie is coming out in October.
Really?
So I put that on my movie marathon, and can't wait to see that. And Hocus Pocus 2 is coming out.
I'm excited about it.
Cannot wait to see that.
Terrifier 2.
Terrifier 2 is coming out.
And My Best Friend's Exorcism.
Yay! So Kelsi and I are watching My Best Friend's Exorcism together in October.
It's going to be so much
fun.
And we're going to carve pumpkins because I've never carved one, which is crazy. I know. By the way, if anyone's commented, who's here, has commented on my YouTube and I haven't responded, I know, I'm sorry. I'm so behind. Work's killing me right now. But I am going to respond to comments this week. It's one of my goals.
So thank you, everyone that popped in to be with us today. We appreciate all of you.
We do, and I think it's been the corniest movies that we've watched all year.
And I was thinking to myself, how naive we would be to think that every book we read by Stephen King or every story we read that we would, love. I mean, which we did love the stories.
Yeah, for the most part.
Every adaptation we would like. I mean, clearly at some point we were going to have a bump in the road.
I mean, we've had some duds. We've had some surprises this year with adaptations and with stories and books. And we've had some surprising, really good discoveries as well. So yeah, there's been a mix of everything in the year of King. Yes. And thanks guys for being on the ride with us, whether it's just for today's show or if you've been attending a lot of the King shows with us or streams. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We will talk to you guys next time, and stay tuned because lots more Halloweeny content to come soon. All right, but for this time, that's it for us. Till next time, Kat, what can they do?
Keep on killing it.
Keep on killing it. Bye guys. Bye. Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.